Good morning, everyone. My name's Murray Fife, and I'm a solution architect for IBIS. And thank you so much for taking the time to sit in on this webinar that we're giving on the Excel add-in, which is really one of the most useful tools when it comes to grabbing data and putting data into Dynamics AX. And I use it all the time, and we all thought that this would be a very, very good presentation that we could give to everybody, show everyone what to do. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone's phone right now is on mute. You can actually unmute your phone, or you can even send comments through the chat windows as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a little bit of the demonstration, talk about the Excel add-in and how you can use it. And then at the end we'll have a question and answer session where I'll unmute all of the phone lines and then everyone will be able to access this. Now also we're recording this presentation, so if you're distracted for a while, then remember you can always come back and you can view the presentation, but also you can skip through some of the areas that maybe you've already seen. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the Excel add-in, or the add-in for the ribbon bar, that is really useful because what it allows you to do is it allows you to not only download information from Dynamics AX, but also it allows you to publish information. So this allows you, I use this all the time for my presentations, my demonstrations, to load data en masse, and also even create entirely new companies through templates, which I'll show you later on today. It's also a great way that if you have data in the system, then and you need to maintain it. For example, maybe you need to change customer groups or codes associated with master data, then rather than going into Dynamics AX, then you can update the data that way. Also, it's a great way that you can enter in quick transactions. For example, there's the ability to perform journal entries, and you can even update sales information if you want to through this Excel add-in, giving you really a different option for distributing and publishing information. Now, I'm going to show examples later on where I'm updating budgets and updating forecasts, which are a little bit more complicated to do normally, but through the Excel add-in, it's actually a really easy thing to do. Now, the items that we're going to talk about today are that I'm going to show you how you can find the Excel add-in. For example, if you don't have it installed already, then you'll need to install it, but that's really easy because you just install it off the Dynamics AX install kit. Now, also I'm going to show you how we can download and publish information. So this is really just how to use the basic features within the Excel add-in to grab information and pull it out. Now, then also I'm going to show you how we can use filters. Filters are a little bit more advanced than just the normal filters that you have on a pivot table, because you can go out and filter really on any field in the table that you're querying rather than just the fields that are showing up on the screen, giving you a lot of flexibility and also just giving you the information that you want. Now, when you use the Excel add-in, then you can pick and choose which company or which entity or even which database you're connecting to. So this gives you an added benefit that you can grab information from one entity and then copy it directly to another through the Excel add-in. This is good for data setup, but also you can use this for transferring data from test to live or vice versa, and you don't really have to do a lot of work. I use it all the time to generate new companies in the system. Now, then we're going to talk a little bit about importing in complex data. Now, these are generally the master data records like products and customers and vendors. They're a little bit more complicated because you need to load multiple tables at once, but really once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard either, and you can use this tool. And then finally, I'm going to talk about matrix fields. Now, this is a a feature that really allows you to do some clever things with the Excel add-in and also rearrange information, because it allows you to create aggregate fields or summary fields on the fly that you can query information through. So I'm going to go through all of that today and show you all of these different features. But enough about the PowerPoint. Let's move over and look at the Dynamics AX add-in. So let me just pop this up quickly. And if you already have this installed, then what's going to happen is that when you go into the Excel itself, then you're going to see a Dynamics AX tab. You may have seen this, or you may not have this installed yet. So I thought I'd just take a little bit of time right now to show you what's involved in installing it. Because all you need to do is go to your Dynamics AX install kit. And all of the install files are here for the Office add-in. So if I go to install the Microsoft Dynamics AX components and then add or modify the components, then there's an optional component here which is called the Office add-ins. Now really this should be something that gets loaded every time, but sometimes it's overlooked. So I've already got this installed, but if you don't, then you just click on it, install it, and it will update your Office installation for you and add that add that ribbon bar to the form. So it's really straightforward to do, and it's really not a hard install. Now, the one thing to point out, this is included inside of Dynamics AX. You don't have to go out and get a service pack. You don't have to download any additional files. It's all there for you. So I just wanted to point that out. That really is just part of the install, and that's all you have to do in order to get that up and running. So what I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about how the system works, or how the Excel add-in works. And now what I'm going to do is just have a simple example here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Accounts Receivable and perform something that I do all the time, and that's going out and loading, for example, tables and controls. And one example is the customer groups. So what I've got here is maybe I want to perform an update here in the system. So what I can do is I can grab all of this information and then pull it over through the Excel add-in. So if I go, the way I do that is that I pull up Excel, and then I go to the Dynamics AX tab. And then the first time you come in, then a lot of this information is going to be grayed out. But what I can do is I can say, I want to add some tables. And this is going to go out and show me all of the tables that are available inside of Dynamics AX that we can query and that we can use within the Excel add-in. Now, I know that the table that I need to find is the customer group. And here's the table. But say, for example, you don't know what table you want to update. You may not be a database expert. Then let me show you a quick trick. Because if I go into any of the forms or any of the data that we may want to update, then I can just right mouse click on the form, and if I go into personalize, then, and you all are probably familiar with this because this just allows you to add and remove tables and fields. If you go to the query tab over here, then the first table that shows up here, which is customer group, is the master table for the form. So anywhere in the system that you want to go and update information, but you don't quite know where to grab it from, then just go into the personalize, go to this query tab, and it will show you the table to update. I've used this to find language codes and all of these obscure sort of pieces of information that I don't know the tables of off the top of my head, and it saves me a lot of time in the long run. So I'm going to go back to here and grab the customer table. And all I need to do is just copy this over to the selected table. Now, if I want to add other items, like the vendor group, and create multiple tables that maybe I'm updating at once, then I can just keep on adding and adding these, and it's just going to keep on creating selections. So this is just a way that you can pull in the table and that you can update it. Now, I'm going to go out and create the worksheet for me. And what it's done is it's now showing me a little bit more information than I had before. So it's showing me now over here on the left-hand side, all of the fields that are available to this table. So we've got the customer group and the default tax group, and then all of the GL account information showing up, and then further down I've got the description and the payment terms. So if, for example, I just click on the fields here, oh, I can't do that. If I go and add an additional field here, like the description, and then turn off the field, then that takes me into edit mode, and I can refresh this information, and it's going to show me all of the customer groups that I've got here. Now, if I return back to the fields, then I can keep on adding additional information here. So, for example, I could add, if I want to maintain the same information that I had before, I can have the terms of payment, I can have the settlement period showing up here, I can have the default tax group if I want to, which is further up here. These are all of the same fields that were on that main screen, and then I want to have the price include sales tax. So really what I'm doing here is I'm just copying all of these same fields that I've got here in this view. So now if I go back into the edit mode and refresh it, now I can see that I have all of the tables showing up. Now, if we remember back to that other format, I didn't have I had actually more information showing up here. And that's for a reason, because here in the options, we have the ability to go and specify what database we want to connect to. So say, for example, I'm connecting to a crafting database. So if I change this to my USMS database, then I'll see all of my information showing up here now. So I've got my VIP customers. So this is all the same information if I go back to here. That is over here. Now, this is good because this is going out and grabbing information and pulling the information down into Excel. And you could do this with products, and I'll show you that later on, or you could do it with really any piece of information. But where the Excel add-in comes in is, and it becomes useful, is that I can go in and I can add records here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my special order customers, and I'm going to make them net 10, 30, and then also something to point out is if there's a field which has an enumeration associated with it or a list of values showing up, then it's going to go out and allow you to perform a drop-down here as well. So this is just a way that I can go out and add an entire line in. Also notice up here, I can perform a lookup, and it's going to go out and show me all of the values for this field directly here within Excel. So I can now go out, and I have one other option here that I want to show. That's this publish option. Now, this is really where the strength of the Excel add-in comes in, because I'm not just pulling information down, but I'm publishing the information. So I've got my customer group 400. I've published it. It's rearranged it and put it back into order, but you can see that I've got my special customers showing up here. When I perform the publish, it goes out and adds the status tab. Normally, you won't see much of this unless there's an error. For example, if I typed in a payment term code that didn't exist, or maybe I was breaking some sort of constraint in the system, then over here in the status it would show me all of the errors that are associated with it. But in this case, it's showing me that I added one record, it published one record, no, the record's failed, and there's no errors showing up. So if I return back here to my customer group and refresh this, then now it's gone out and updated my special order customers as a customer group. So I've used Excel to go out and really just query this information and pull all the details in. Now this is a simple example, but still a very, very useful example. But if I go and look at some other items, see if I've got my example here. So another option that you can use this for, I've got my chart of accounts. So this is an example that I configured, but I actually use a lot of during my demos and as I'm setting up the information. And it's a template for a chart of accounts. And what I did is I went out and I just grabbed all the chart of accounts, and I could go out and choose, for example, to view just the standard chart of accounts. And I could add records in here, I could update them, and also I can use this to publish entirely new chart of accounts just by changing the chart of account name and pasting that in. So we'll show that in just a second on how I can do that, because it's really the same technique where I'm just going in, I'm querying the data. In this case, I'm accessing the chart of account elements and then publishing the information. Then let me change gears a little bit, and what I'm going to do is show you another feature. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to create a new worksheet. And in this case, I'm going to go and add some more data here. And I'm going to add the vendor table. Now with the vendor table, this is an example where maybe I want to go out and filter some information out and then update the information as well. So if we look up here while it's querying the vendors table, there's a filters option up here. And what this allows me to do is this allows me to filter out any of the information, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the information that shows up. So I've got a vendor group showing up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the credit limit and also maybe the credit rating, and then also I'm going to add in the name so I can see who the vendor is. So I'm just grabbing some information, and then I'm going to refresh this. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to change the company to one that has a lot more information. And refresh it. Because in this example, the vendors are all classified based on as employees, as main distributors, and you can see the group showing up here. Now, I'll show you how we could do a mass update of the credit limit, but maybe we don't want to update all of the records here. Now, I can, if I want to, because this is Excel, then maybe I could just go out and filter out the group here just to these vendors. But maybe the field that I want to filter on doesn't exist here in the table. So what I can do is I can go up here to the filter option. If I click on that, then what it will allow me to do is filter on any table that I've selected inside of Excel, and I can add a condition. Now, this allows me to select and filter on any record here. So say, for example, I want to have minority groups, or maybe I want to have a certain buyer group, or maybe I want to have the vendor group filtered out like I had before. Which is group, then I can just add that field here. I can add in additional levels here if I want to, so I can have more complicated filters as I'm grabbing information. And then also I can click on this link here and I can find all the values, and it's going to show me the employee, which is the vendor group. So now if I've added a filter, and now I can refresh it. So you could use this for updating employees, updating payroll information. You could use it to update any information. The benefit of using this rather than this grouping is that it's really just returning back the fields that we're interested in. So now I can, the reason why I go through this process is because I can now go out and change this credit limit. And I can just select certain data, and I can use all of the features that you have available within Excel for pasting down, for selecting items, for calculations, if you want to do calculations on the side, and update these. And then I can publish these. And it's now going out and updating all of the credit limits for all of those vendors. So if I go back to here, it's going to show me that it updated 18 records, and now all my credit limits are updated. That's a lot easier than going into Excel itself, into Dynamics itself, and individually finding those records and updating them. Although if you're just doing one or two records, then you should use Dynamics AX. But if you're trying to update a mass update information, then do it through here, and it's a lot easier. When you're doing this, you're not affecting, or you're not bypassing any security. You're just updating the information as if you typed it in by hand. So all of the auditing, all the security, all of the constraints would stay in place as well. So it's just a way that you can update this information. Now, so this is querying information, filtering the information out. But let me go back to here. There's another feature that you can take advantage of, which I sort of talked about earlier on, which was here in the options, where I can swap company. And if I go into Dynamics AX, and let me just close this down, and if I change to another company, then this US 01 company for me is blank. So I don't have any customer groups in here. And maybe I want to populate this. Now this could also be a test environment, or it could be another database as well. But rather than go in and enter this in piece by piece, then what I can do is I'm just going to grab all of the records that I've got here and then just paste them over here to the side. Let me make this look tidy, and then we format it. So now I've got sort of like a template here in the system. Now, I'm going to blank out all of these, because these may vary by company. But all I'm doing is just updating the template. Now if I go over here to the options, then I can change the company to US01, which is my other organization, and then refresh this information. Notice that there's no data showing up here. So now if I go over here, grab this information, and then paste this information in, then it's going to paste in all the information that I added, and then create the rows. And I just need to publish this information. And it's gone and updated the information over here, and now I've got all of my customer groups showing up here in the system as well. So this is, it's a time saver, but also it's a way that as you're migrating information, as you're setting up new organizations, as you're copying information from one location to another, if you're updating a test system, then you can grab the information from one, copy it over, paste it into another organization. And it doesn't have to be the 10 or 12 elements that I've got here. This could be 100, 200, 1,000, as many elements as you want. So this is just a quick tool and a quick way that you can update information. So let me close out of here just for a second. And we'll talk a little bit about something else. So let me go to the, say for example you want to update some more complicated information or some more intricate maybe. And one of the things is maybe you're adding new customers or adding new products or something like that. Then it's not just one table that you're updating, or at least with 2012, it's not one table that you're updating. It may be multiple tables, and this could be, for example, loading in prospects. For prospects, you need to add add them to the global address book, and then maybe add them into CRM, or for a trade show, maybe you're loading employee information or anything like that. All of this information is just a little bit more involved than going out and just loading in customer group as I was doing before. So if you want to do this, then all you need to do is this. So let me create a new Excel workbook. And what I do is I go out and I create a template for loading in information. So I can go into Dynamics AX, I can say I want to add a new table. And now I know that I need at least 3 tables to load a product. And that's the product translation, so I can give the descriptions in whatever language. And then also the inventory table. So what I did is I just went out and I grabbed all of those records. So I talked earlier on how you could grab multiple tables at once, and I'm just doing this and pulling these in. It's also going to go out and create templates for us. And while this is grabbing the information, then notice here for the products, and also there's subtables associated with this as well for the products and the product master. So we'll actually have the related tables showing up here as well. Now if let's see if I can refresh this. Okay, let me just change to the right company here. So here are all of our products, and if I refresh all of them, then there's all of my instances and all of my translations will copy over as well. Now, I know that I just need to load the products and then the translations and the inventory tables one by one. So all I need to do is format the information in the same way that everything else has been formatted to load that in. But maybe for example, you have raw information. Maybe you're integrating another subsystem over into Dynamics AX and populating the information, and you have an export that you've grabbed. Then here's a little bit of a trick that you can do. So I've gone out and I have a template that I use for importing products, and I use this over and over again. I'll open this up and read only for now. Actually, I might have had that already open. And what I've done is I've gone out and I've grabbed all of the information that I pulled out through my export. Let's see if there's a... And I have all of my raw information coming over. And what I've done is I have my 3 tables here that I need to load that are associated with this record. So again, you could create a template for this for customers, for employees, for anything that you may want. And then, just through a little bit of work within Excel, I've gone out and created, enable this content, I've created a formula that will go out and format all of this information and also filter it out and change the length if I need to, and also put everything in the proper case values. Then all of these items here for the product are then listed out. So if I wanted to add any of this information, then I could just select these records, go over here to the particular table that I want to update, paste them in, and publish them. So all of this I can do here through this one template. So the key item that I want to show here is that we're going out and we're using some of the same techniques that I was using earlier on just to grab a little bit of information. But I'm now grabbing more, I'm formatting it and creating a template and then loading it. Now this is, you can use this technique for loading in journal entries, or maybe you can use this technique for creating sales order information as well. But it's all just a way that you can just grab more complicated information. So now I've gone out and I've queried this information, and now I've sort of loaded all the technical information. Now there's one other item which I want to show before I open this up really to a question and answer. And that's the, let me find my, close down some of these. So there's the final area that I really want to talk about is a feature that's inside of the Excel add-in, which is called a matrix field. Now this is useful because there's some information, for example, budget information or forecast information. So let me find some forecast in here. See if I've got any. Where the information is more of a linear format. For example, when I go out and look at forecasts for a particular item, then it's really broken out by date range for January, February, March, April. Or another example is budgeting, where, for example, the budgets are broken out into periods. And if I go out and, let me close this down. If I query this information, then it's going to show me all of the information broken out by those date ranges. So what I'm going to do here is, let me just tidy this up again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new worksheet here. And I'm going to add a table. And for this one, I'm going to find all the forecast information and load this in. Now, I'm also going to change the company to a different company. But I'm going to see, here I'm going to see all of my forecast information, all my forecast model. Let me just change over to a better organization. Just think of this one. And let me add in some items. So what I'm going to do is for my forecast, I'm going to add in the customer group and the customer account. I'm going to add in the item group and the item number for the forecast. And then also I want to add in my quantity for my forecast. Oops, pushed that wrong. So what I was talking about before is that all of my forecasts, and also if you're looking at budgets and things like that, then all of these are broken out by date range. So they're not it's not really the easiest way for you to go out and update a forecast. So there's an option here that is built in, that's sort of hidden away. If I go up here to my table, then I can right mouse click and I can say, I want to create a matrix field. Now this allows me to create a query. And I'm going to say I want to create a total on the inventory quantity. And I can also add a condition here. Now the conditions, I'll show you in another example, allow you to go out and filter out information and group information maybe by date range or by type of product group or by customer group. But in this case, I just want to create a total field. And now if I look down here, then I've got this total. The way this works is now if I go in and, for example, just put in, create a new record here and add, I won't add the date because I want to summarize by date. But I want to add the model, maybe the method, and then I'm just going to add the total here. Then now I've got a field that I can refresh this information. And it's going to aggregate all the information up. Now, each record here has a unique record ID. So what I need to do is just delete that record and then go back to the main view and refresh it. And it's going to show me now my sales or my forecast for all items at the header level and also down at the line level. I can go and I can change this. And I could say that I want to add product group in here, maybe the item number, so that I can break it out by item number and group. And then again, refresh this. And now, did I add that in? Oh. Actually, what I want to do is change this. Let me change this a little bit. I want to add the customer group, because this will give me a better option. And then refresh it. And now we can see what the forecast quantities here are for each of the item groups. Now the benefit of this is I can go out and update this at the total level. So I can say that my forecast is going to be maybe 12,000 units over whatever time period I've selected for this customer group. And if I go publish, then that will go out and will update all the sub-records as well. So if you take this to another level, then I've got another example here, which is a budgeting template that I've used a couple of times to illustrate this, where I've gone out and I've queried the budget information or the budget table within Dynamics AX, and that's a very linear table with date, 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 but filtered it out so that now I go out and I query find or roll up all of the budgets for all of the GL accounts by period going out for 12 periods. And this allows me to go out and update the budget for this item. I can update this if I'm connected. And then I can publish this, and this gives you a data entry form which is more conducive for this type of update. So for forecasts, for updates, for budget updates, for anything that has sort of like a time-phased approach to it, then you can go out and you can use these matrix fields to really build up your own view and also to build up your own query here within the system. So all of these items are built into the Excel add-in for Dynamics AX, and they allow you to import information, they allow you to update information. Now, I'm going to stop because we've been talking for around about 40 minutes or so, and I'm going to open up the line for questions. But before I do that, there's other things that you can do with the Excel template. You can use it just to download information. So that allows you to pull in customer information or sales information or really any information that you want. And you can access the tables directly, but still through a secured way. I've used that to go out and generate dashboards and query and sort of consolidate information. You can also use it to generate other form style templates. So for example, importing in journals, importing in sales orders or any of the more complicated information like that, then you can do through the Excel add-in. All you do is create sort of like a template for loading the information. And then also the most common use for this is really just maintenance of the database when you have multiple records that you're needing to update within the system. So let me just close out of here. So at this point, I'm going to thank you for sitting in and listening to our presentation. I hope this is useful to you all, and we'll probably just close out the presentation and then let you all get back to work. So thank you very much, and everyone have a nice day.